G'day ladies and gentlemen, Duckville here, welcome to a StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm replay cast. We've got a Protoss versus Zerg coming up, or technically a random versus Zerg. We've got our red Protoss across to the top right hand side here on Habitation Station. Of course this is from the previous season. It is none other than Balloon, who is one of the very few high-level Protoss players, random players that's out there on the Korean server, jumping up to Masters, and I believe in the previous season he made it up to Grandmasters. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, he's a pretty damn good player. I mean, it takes a lot to play random and actually do really well at it. I mean, there's obviously various players who have an off race that they do really well with, or perhaps a particular player like Tilia, who actually can play Zerg and Terran, but then doesn't play Protoss as much. But of course, as I mentioned, like there are a lot of players who have a second race that they do really well with. Like Tasia's Protoss is actually also quite amazing, considering that he's obviously one of the best Terran players in the world. But yeah, but it's a little bit different to playing as random. So he's going to be playing against a wonderful Zerg player over in the top left-hand side here, all the way from Washington, over in the US. It is none other than Reborn. Now, Reborn was previously on Clarity Gaming for quite a while, and is currently teamless, of course, with Clarity Gaming disbanding. And but some of their players have actually been picked up by the new team that they've all joined. But I'm not sure if Reborn's going to be joining them just yet, because I did speak to him before I started casting this one, and he said he's just sort of not feeling as confident with his play as he was previously. But I can certainly assure you he is a wonderful Zerg player up at GM level on all servers. Well, servers that matter, I suppose. C doesn't really count at all. But this should be a really interesting game, because yeah, Balloon has a very weird kind of style when it comes to Protoss. He actually kind of reminds me of my particular style when I play Protoss, when I used to play Protoss properly back in the day, because pretty much it would be a style where you kind of just neglect to get Colossus and Templar and stuff like that, and then obviously for me that kind of made it quite a challenge. Now, I'm not saying I'm as good as Balloon or anything, but that's a similar kind of thing that I have seen Balloon do in quite a lot of his replays. It's just he kind of says, you know, screw Colossus, I'm just going to play this the much harder way as Protoss, and just, you know, try and win with gateway units and fancy DT attacks and warp prisms and stuff like that, but never really pumping up the Robo or the Templar archives. So I don't know, it's a weird thing to see what Balloon's going to do. But when it comes to playing random, of course, most random players do have a weaker race, and I think for Balloon it is his Zerg, so I'm sure he's going to be happy that he has picked up Protoss this time. And it'll be interesting to see how Reborn handles things, because I mean, when you're faced up against a random player, of course a lot of people will just assume that a random player is always going to try and just cheese or one base or two base and just finish the game before the 15-minute mark, because it is like a lot harder to sort of understand the various nuances of each particular race, and especially when it gets to late game. Even some people who do properly play a single race still have difficulties sometimes when it gets to late game, just because there can be so many different things that can go on. But Balloon is someone who's certainly capable of playing through pretty much every single part of each race. I mean, as I said, his Zerg is a little bit weaker from what I've seen, but either way, he is pretty cool to watch. And we'll see what happens here, because Balloon has opened us up with a Forge First. He's going to be chrono boosting his +1 to weapons. Now, he does do some very interesting timing attacks with Protoss sometimes. Now, what I have seen him do is this. Okay, he's going to do it this time. I was going to say, is Double Forge. It takes us back quite a while, because this particular type of style is actually a really old kind of style that Protoss players were using way back. Like, I'm talking Tal'Darim Alta days, and possibly even further. back in the days of Wings of Liberty, where you would chrono boost the hell out of your forges and actually go for like a 2/2 stalker. I believe it was generally blink stalker based attack, and it looks as if he is going for something similar here. Now I have seen him do this a couple of times. The problem is that it's actually really easy to scout this. All you need to see is that there's a second forge, you see the Twilight Council, and you say, alright, cool. Well, this is probably going to be something based on a timing attack with at least +2 weapons. It doesn't have to be +2 armor these days. Some people just sort of at least get +1 armor and then skip going to 2, but it sort of depends on how you want to play it out. But it looks as if he is going to chrono boost armor, so it is quite likely he's going to go to +2 armor as well. Meanwhile, for Reborn, of course, as a Zerg player scouting this out, as long as you're able to scout if they're going for blink stalkers, and it's not just a very simple gateway based 2/2, then it can be quite easy to deal with this kind of thing. You can either go towards Hydras and get their very high DPS and kind of unit, and then just make sure that you are spreading your creep very far, because you do need that movement bonus that you get there for your Hydras, so that they are able to chase after blink stalkers and maneuver themselves around and things like that. Or you can head up towards Infestors. Infestors can really help with their lockdown from fungal growth, and we'll see exactly what Reborn's going to do very soon. But one of the key things, of course, is that you do need to get your economy pumping, and that is exactly what he has done here. We've got the drones all up and running here at the third base. The natural base is all saturated. Pretty much everything is done. We're just missing a gas inside the main, but that's not a huge deal given what we are going to be going for here as the Zerg player. But Balloon, he's got like +2 weapons just about to finish now, and I mean that's pretty damn quick. And we've got shields. Wow, we've got shields following this up. This is quite odd, but of course, I guess when it comes down to the numbers, I'm pretty sure when you get level 1 shields, it's actually slightly more valuable than +2 to armor based on the cost. So it kind of does work out. It's just that generally speaking, armor does work out better for you, because zealots are obviously gain quite a lot from having armor, given that they are taking quite a lot of damage. But of course, Blink is on the way. A Dark Shrine was also completed here for Balloon, and this is looking like it's going to be a very similar kind of, this could be a Blink Archon based attack that he's going for here. It looks as if the DTs tried to poke into the main base here with this first Warp Prism that came out, but didn't really get too much damage done. Reborn prepared for that. He does have that Spore Crawler there. Some Roaches are here to help out as well, not to mention that Queen is available as well. So for the time being, it looks as if Balloon is not going to have the most fun of times here with his initial units, but his play is starting to shape up. We've got a +1 to shields on the way, and I mean, I don't know, you would have kind of expected him to actually look to possibly go for an attack here, but he's just decided he's going to switch it up. His opponent knows what's coming, and he's just going to try and get this third base operational and see if he can move things from there. So at the moment, Balloon is just letting things go. He's going to try and see if he can defend against this big Roach force that is now on the way from Reborn. These guys have got +1 on their weapons, so they're not as pumped up as some of these Protoss units will be, but they certainly will be doing quite a lot of damage, and not to mention there's a whole big group of them that are now pushing in here on the third base, forcing the cancel. They're really important to make sure that that's happening. However, back at home, DTs have snuck their way inside the main base. They're going to be taking out this Spore Crawler very quickly. They just a few swipes and that Spore Crawler is then gone. The DTs are now going to go to town on the rest of the drones inside the base here, actually just ripping apart everything. Reborn was having a quick poke at the front door, but the force fields will hold back the Zerg forces for now. But these DTs and now some Zealots are also popping out. Is just gonna have they've done a wonderful job. Look at all that. The drones are all gone, and the total workers killed is 17 for Balloon. So he's going to be happy with the work that he's done there. The problem that he's had is that he hasn't been able to establish a third yet. We really would want to have a third base up and running by now, especially when you've invested into getting all these upgrades out. And just by the way, he's getting +2 to shields. That's kind of hilarious, but when you've invested this much in your upgrades and you're not going to go for a just for a straight up timing attack, and you're still sitting on 2 bases at the, where are we at? We're at the 13-minute mark. does start to get a little bit dicey. So we will need to see Balloon move out. It looks as if he is on the way down towards the third base here. We're going to set up this Nexus and get started with that. Lots of roaches are out on the map for Reborn. He's got 64 roaches. I mean, that's incredible. And he's also going to be adding in Tunneling Claws. Their +2 to weapons is also on the way. So this should get very interesting here. And we'll see if Reborn is able to catch his opponent out. Because, of course, bear in mind, there is actually no observer. There is no observer here, and this could get a little bit dicey. We can see the angles that he's coming in from. Some of the roaches at the front are just going to run straight in and absorb some of the damage. It looks as if the rest of the roaches are now joining the forces, and Reborn is going to have to contend with some of these force fields, but of course he can just burrow underneath, jump straight up. But these Immortals, keep in mind, have +3 to their weapons, 1 shield and 1 armor. It's the most incredible upgrade advantage here for our Protoss player, and I mean, even with a few DTs strewn in that mix there, they're able to hold that back. Of course, the Immortals have now died off. The big problem still remains. The Balloon is still suffering from a lack of economy at this point. Reborn, able to reload. He's got another huge batch of roaches that are out at the moment. Going to keep that creep spread continuing through the middle of the map. The gold base is on the way for our Zerg player, and I mean, apart from that big DT attack that hit earlier, Balloon hasn't really been able to get too much done. There's no real harassment that he's been able to work into this, so he's just sort of floundering at the moment, given that we still haven't actually gotten all of our probes across here. He's just transferring them now, but it's going to get a little bit difficult here for the Protoss player, or the random player. I've never really casted a random player before. I'm not sure what to call him. We'll just call him a Protoss. But Reborn is trying to lock down this Warp Prism here. Has found it. It's inside the gold base, but now it has jumped back across towards the main base. 1 or 2 Hydras here should be able to help poke this Warp Prism down, as it's not really doing too much other than just sitting there at the moment. But he gets a couple of shots on, forces the Prism away. But this is all just buying a little bit of time for Balloon at the moment, because his main base is getting a little bit low. Of course, his natural is still functioning relatively normally, but it is starting to also get low itself. But for our Protoss player, we're still waiting to see some big AoE here. Like, I mean, it is nice to have extra Immortals and, you know, tons of upgrades coming out. I mean, he's going up to +3 shields. He's going to have 333 on his units very soon, and it is really good when you do have those kind of upgrades, but you still need some form of power units, whether it be the Templar to throw out their Storm, whether it be the, of course, Colossus to help with their big AoE long-range damage, or even if we start to head towards air tech. And I mean, even throwing in some Void Rays at this point wouldn't be too bad. Your units on the ground are going to do quite well against the Roaches, as long as the fight does pan out well for the Protoss. But it's more about getting into position, because of course these Zealots are gonna tank for days, given that they've got shields and armor. They're also going to do a lot of damage, given that they've got +3 on their weapons. It's just a matter of making sure you chew through everything here, because without the big AoE, it does get a little bit difficult to deal with this kind of thing. But Balloon, he's just going to play it out carefully, trying to keep an eye on this army that's at the top of the ramp at the moment. He's also some of his pylons across the map have been swatted down. I think there was also another one across here, but that got taken out. But Reborn getting very daring here. I'm not too sure about how this push is going to go. As we said, there is still a lot of power in a big gateway and Immortal Force that has 333, or just about to have 333. But you've still got to be careful. And as you can see here, Reborn's just going to jump down towards the low ground. Knows that Balloon is out of position. He's just going to smash through the gateways, the cannons that are left here. But is he going to be able to get enough damage done? A Time Warp is thrown down, and Balloon is trying to lock down this big group of units here. The Immortals now going to town. Their 865 damage against the Roaches is really putting in a lot of work. The Stalkers blinking across. We can see some Changelings dropped on the ground, perhaps looking to try and block off some of the Protoss units. It looks as if Balloon does a wonderful job sweeping through all of those units there, and Reborn is going to have to reload here. So Yet again, Reborn just having to fall back a little bit. His gold base functioning quite nicely, but looking to pick up another base just down towards the bottom left-hand side. We'll see how this is going to work out because the Vipers are now just coming along from Reborn. It was, I think it's a little bit late to be pulling these out. Like, not saying it's a bad idea, it's just a little bit late to be pulling these out. And compared to where he probably should have had them during that attack, having some blinding clouds would have been quite nice. Zealots now dropping into the main, saying hello. These guys, bear in mind, with 333 upgrades, are going to be doing a lot of damage. They should even be able to take care of some of these spine crawlers. Balloon needing to fall back from the middle, just worrying about these big clusters of roaches and hydras that are sweeping in through the middle of the map here. It looks as if this DT is also going to try and take out this spine crawler here. This base is going to be probably falling into a little bit of trouble now that the Warp Prism has free reign, but a few units now falling back. Hydras are coming across. We would perhaps like to see maybe if this Viper could come along and just abduct the Warp Prism back into position here, but Balloon, he's still sticking around. He's still got a lot of gateway units, and again, we still haven't even started a Robo, the support bay or anything like that, but he's still just sticking with it. These mass upgraded units, 333, you rarely ever get to see +3 shields on Protoss these days, but he has got it. He's got 333, and he is now starting to take apart some of the army here. The big warrior for Balloon is just making sure that he stays clear of the blinding cloud, and a couple of good blinding clouds, even abducting an immortal out, does really well there for Reborn. He also just has to be careful about the mixture that he has, that he keeps together here. Of course, given that his opponent is sticking on this gateway-based mixture, you can also stick on a much lower tier kind of mix here. As we can see, the Hydras are always going to be good against gateway units, generally speaking. The Roaches are also good for tanking for the Hydras. The Vipers, now that they're added in, bringing in the blinding cloud and also helping out in that regard. But we just want to make sure that Reborn is, yep, there he is. He's got his Greater Spire just finished morphing in now. We also want to keep these upgrades coming along as well. He's got 2-2 at the moment, but a big battle in the middle yet again. Similar position to previously. The force field's blocking out a lot of the Protoss units, sorry, the Zerg units, and then an abduction from the Viper. Nicely done there by Reborn. Now, we can see a few Corruptors actually just hatched there, and it looks as if Reborn may be heading towards the Broodlords. This could be quite interesting. This is a weird, very odd game. It's kind of reminding me of like if we were watching a Wings of Liberty game before Tempests were about, where, you know, these days you rarely ever see Broodlords, just for the simple fact they're very slow and they just get dominated by Tempests. And of course a lot of Protoss players will be recognizing that kind of thing. But just before we get back to that point, the Roaches have come in towards the third base here, getting a lot of damage done, just burrowing for the moment. Nicely done by Reborn. Lots of Stalkers here and only a few more Immortals left over. So Reborn, if he can get on top of these units, that's the issue of dealing with these guys, is actually getting on top of them and dealing the damage. But it looks as if he has started to force them back. The 4 Broodlords at the back are also going to be helping out here. These Roaches are going to move into a position here and then just start slaughtering those probes, and he does exactly that. A little bit of a bad angle here for Reborn. He's not really able to get good concave here on the rest of these forces. These Corruptors moving towards the front are actually going to be not really doing too much. We'd love to see them throw down a couple of Corruptions to try and accelerate the damage that's being done here. But Reborn losing some of his forces on the ground and then also losing some up in the air. We're going to lose another Broodlord. We're down to just the 2. Another one is now down the drain, and there is only one left. But could it be enough, as the third base is now being torn apart by these 6 little Roaches that are just hanging out here? The probes have all been killed off, and Balloon is in a bit of trouble now, I think. He does have a gold base, and he is still mining from it at the moment, but his respective banks are very, very low. Just 200 minerals and 100 gas, whereas Reborn is still piecing together a little bit of his economy, as he did lose quite a few drones. He is now down to 55, but he at least still has some of the bases. The gold base was taken out, but I mean, he still has a little bit of economy left over that he can utilize here, and we'll see what he's going to do, because the Broodlords, again, as we mentioned before, Broodlords can be very easily countered now in Heart of the Swarm, and that's part of why we don't get to see them too often. But if they have some proper support, they are quite good in getting a lot of damage done. And Balloon still continuing to try and harass here. He's trying to actually take out this hatchery. He may be able to if he gets a couple more swipes on this hatch. And yes, he does. There, down it goes. That is a very rare kill, if I've ever seen one. Just one Zealot just swiping away, eventually killing off the hatchery there, even though it did have some damage already put in before. But it is still quite funny to see one Zealot just roaming in there and killing it off. So Reborn losing a couple of hatcheries. He's trying to get his economy back together again. As we can see, the gold base has been restarted. Our main base is pretty much run out of minerals. There's still a few left here. The natural is gone. The third is also pretty much gone. But as we can see, Reborn still has some powerful forces. He's now looking to take out the gold base of his opponent. He is able to sweep through and kill off a lot of these probes. In fact, a lot of the probes getting killed off there is actually pretty big, because this means that our Protoss player is going to have a very hard time keeping his economy up and running at the moment. A couple more Broodlords being morphed in here by Reborn. His base down at the bottom left-hand side, a little bit oversaturated. He could send some of these guys up to the gold right now and prepare that base for proper mining. But infestors have been added in. They'll be able to throw out a couple of fungal growths and lock down those stalkers, which is what we were looking for before. And that is the cutest little thing if I have ever seen it. Some blocking changelings there on the ramp, stopping Balloon actually getting back inside his gold base. So he's not able to get there at the moment. Of course, the probes could mineral walk through, but he's not going to risk that just yet, with the Zerg forces bearing down on him from the side. And slowly but surely the changelings have been taken care of, but they have already been quite funny to watch there. And Reborn, again with another little roach hit squad, is going to head down towards the bottom right hand side of the map. Some stalkers are going to try and chase them down. The pursuit is on. Finds the roaches, they burrow, they are going to get out of there. And it looks as if Reborn is now just going to push in here and clean out the gold base. Wants to make sure that his opponent cannot take this one, because I think this game is pretty much at a GG stage right now. Balloon is far down in the resources counted. I mean, he's going to need a lot of stalkers to deal with the Broodlords, but then the problem is as soon as you blink in underneath the Broodlords or something like that, you're going to get locked down by fungal growth. You're going to get torn apart by the Hydras and the Roaches, and I don't think there is any way that Balloon is going to be able to save this one. So whilst perhaps not the it wasn't exactly the most well-executed finish here, we can see that Reborn is going to be able to sweep through the rest of this. Balloon trying to come in from the side, coming in from all angles, trying to deal what damage he can to the Broodlords. But I mean, as we can see, good positioning from Reborn to cover all angles, and that is going to be it. Balloon is taken out by Reborn. I hope we do get to see him jump onto a team as soon as possible, because he is a fantastic Zerg. Make sure you go and check out his stream. Also check out Balloon's stream as well. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you all next time.